Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/prorevenge. So sit back, relax and enjoy some Reddit stories. Friend pranks my parents on their wedding day. My grandpa takes care of that. My grandpa was a quiet guy. He loved his family more than anything and he was very observant. The wedding reception was in full swing. Everyone is drinking and dancing and having a great time. One of my dad's friends drunkenly decides to play a prank. He gets two more of my dad's buddies to help. Grandpa notices them sneaking out and watches. Now Mum had an awesome car. It was a blue Camaro with a Landau top and was either a 69, 70 or 71. Mum doesn't remember. This friend of dad's also had a Camaro of the same year. Anyway, the trio go out to Mum's car, pop the hood and take apart. I think it was spark plugs, but whatever they took, it meant the car wouldn't start, leaving my parents kinda stranded. Grandpa saw this, waited till the drunk guys went back in, then took the same part from the drunk guy's car and put it in Mum's. He then took the drunk guy's tools and flashlight and hid them in the coat closet. Soon it's real dark, so the newlyweds leave for their hotel room. Drunk guy and his friends are even drunker and discover their car won't start. They pop the hood and see the missing part and start looking for the tools and flashlight. Grandpa walks over and says, "Your tools and light are in the coat closet. I hope your car is comfy because the building won't be unlocked until morning." Of course, Grandpa tells Grandma, they laugh and Grandma tells Mum and Dad. My grandpa was the best. I've just realised, right, if those guys were drunk and planned on driving, because he did say all of them were drunk, then their grandpa probably saved a lot of people's lives, wow. My new coworker tried to make me look bad in front of management, ended up embarrassing herself with little prodding. Let's go ahead and set the scene a little more. The owner is Carly, the antagonist is Linda, the manager is Ashley, and the hosts are Carol and Jen. I recently got a new serving job at a fine dining wine bar with fresh seafood, a gourmet cheese room, sushi bar and scratch kitchen. It's just a part-time gig to get myself more experience, as in my other job I serve very fast casual American fare with a lot of tables, but with very low daily tip potential. I work each job every other day and then have Sundays off. Keeps my days from feeling repetitive. Only working there 2 days a week and I've worked there 7 nights. Linda has also been here for about 2.5 weeks, but she works here 4 to 5 days a week. I've known for a while Linda doesn't like me very much. One of the last times I worked with Linda, she was on a bartending shift and hadn't been getting out my drinks. Had a table wait 15 minutes for a glass of wine, but she wouldn't allow me behind bar. Then started to loudly argue with me about whether or not I sent them in. When I found the ticket for my drink punched as completed order, she loudly chastised me for being unprofessional in front of customers and embarrassing myself at the workplace. I very sternly said something along the lines of, "Ain't that the pot calling the kettle black?" and just kinda walked away. At the end of the night, I made $1.15. I had to tip out dish, host, and bar. I decided $5 a piece was fair enough, considering my total, and left. Keep in mind, this is a small gourmet restaurant. On nights, we aren't busy. Servers do our own dishes and bar, and don't do tip outs. If it's slow, hosts and dish go home early without tips. The next shift I had, Linda wasn't there, but Jen, one of the hosts, was. Jen went on to tell me that Linda told her directly that she didn't think Jen deserved tips for her job, and that it was ridiculous because the money should be going to the bar. Jen told me, without prompting, that she heard how Linda talked to me the last time we worked together, and that she didn't really think that it was acceptable, but didn't want to add flame to the fire by saying something. I come into work Thursday and we were clearly overstaffed. I was the last one on rotation. Got there at 4 PM, and by 7, I'd taken one to-go order. The couple was incredibly nice and thankful though, repetitively saying how helpful and thoughtful I was at explaining the menu. Tipped me $6 on one sushi entree and a bottle of homemade salad dressing. Promised they'd come back soon and request me as their server even. Good people. After they left, I grabbed a staff drink and said later. Well, today, Saturday, Linda was again at bar. Pretty much as soon as I came in, Jen found a moment to pull me aside and tell me that while I was at my other job Friday, Linda made a complaint about Jen and I. The owner, Carly, had already pulled Jen aside to talk to her about it, and Jen heard my name wrapped up in it, so wanted to give me a heads up. Jen told me that she thinks Linda is an absolute bully, and that it's really upsetting her. Carly asks to speak to me for a moment in her office, but suddenly a customer calls and asks to speak to the owner. Guess who it was? It was the nice to-go order people, who just decided to call 2 days later by the owner's words, rant and rave about your service. I couldn't believe my luck. Carly shook my hand and told me I did a really good job, and never talked to me about Linda's complaints. I immediately realized that knowing about Linda's complaints, but having management not know that I know, was powerful information that I could use to my advantage, if needed. My shift goes on and Linda is super irate all evening. I went out of my way to sell full bottles of wine as much as I could, so that I wouldn't have to worry about her making my drinks, and got quite a few glasses of my own wine while she was servicing tables. At one point, I accidentally rung in a Pinot Noir, even though it was 86th, and she flipped out. Even the owner's husband was very lightly telling her it wasn't a big deal, and was picking out an inexpensive Pinot from the wine room. She kept going on, and I finally looked at her and just said, "I'm really going to need you to be nicer to me," grabbed the bottle offered and walked off. Not long after, I'm walking behind her in a walkway, and without realizing I'm there, she says to herself mockingly, "I'm going to need you to be nicer." Later in the evening, as I'm holding a very heavy tray, she holds the door open for me, and as I'm rather focused, I didn't think to say thank you. She very loudly goes, "Uh-huh, you're welcome." Just kinda dumb rude stuff. A 55-year-old woman working customer service should have more tact. At this point, I'm kinda just like, what do I have to lose? I've worked here for 7 days. I got the manager Ashley alone and pulled a very innocent, "Hey, I hate to be this person, I know you have a lot going on right now, but Linda has been being really harsh to me, and it's gotten bad enough that I have Jen and Carly both coming up to me, saying that they aren't okay with how she's speaking to me." The manager Ashley said that she'd seen it herself a bit, and that she would mention it without mentioning that I brought it up, and told me that they really liked having me there and to not worry about it. About 10 minutes later, I see and vaguely hear Linda saying things about my service, work ethic, and making a bunch of her like, "you see" gestures. I rung in a drink to go back to bar to be annoying and nosy, basically, and Linda shut up pretty quickly. The night goes on and closing time is afoot. Linda keeps repetitively asking if I printed my revenue yet, and at first I couldn't understand why. As soon as I printed out my report, she circles my total beer sales, total wine glass sales, and total wine bottle sales, and tells me that those numbers are the numbers I should be using to calculate her tip out. Keep in mind, I went out of my way to sell bottles of wine so I could avoid using her service, and sold $200 worth of just wine bottles, which was half of my total sales on this slow night. I ended up with a bad selection filled with just friends of the local band that was singing. They all shared bottles of wine and apps. I'll add, I'm new enough that asking how to do tip outs based on the total drink sales was really reasonable, especially as it's not restaurant policy. I grabbed my report, all of my tips, walked up to the manager to turn in my cash for the night, and in the most innocent voice I could muster up, "Ma'am, what would the proper tip to bar be based on my total drink sales?" Honestly, on a night like tonight, you don't even need to tip bar. We all just kinda helped each other all night. You got some of your own drinks. Oh, well, Linda said I need to be calculating her tip based on my total drink sales. Well, no one would expect you to tip based on your full bottles of wine. Oh, I think she expects me to. Could you tell me just how much you think I should tip her out, so I know I didn't do it incorrectly? She does some quick math. Based on your beer and wine glass sales, 5% of total sales would be about $6. Thanks. I grabbed out $6, placed it on the bar, and without saying anything to Linda, walked into the dish pit/back room to finish my drink. I hear Linda stomping around and approach the manager with attitude. She just completely stiffed me out on a tip. No, she didn't. I calculated how much I should have been tipped based on her revenue report. She completely stiffed me and walked out. I also just calculated how much she should have been tipping you, except I figured it should have been 0. The way you're acting is completely unprofessional. You shouldn't be calculating anything on anyone's revenue reports. We aren't going to schedule for the next week. After that, we can see if you can play nice with coworkers. I left my drink at Dish and headed out to the back door to avoid confrontation, but had the pleasure of seeing Linda stomp to her car in a hissy fit. Never have I seen karma act so swiftly in my favor. Never have I ever had such a random idea go so well. Everything just kind of lined up in my favor. If I hadn't been able to push the full bottles of wine, the disagreement over whether or not I needed to tip out on bottles wouldn't have happened. If those customers had called any later, Carly would have had the meeting where she told me I was on thin ice, like Jen due to Linda's complaint. Instead, I kinda just cast reflect, but I look innocent and spooked. It just felt nice. Wanted to share, thanks for reading. I assume this is in the States, and I'm so confused how tipping works in the United States. Like, can someone please explain it to me? Credit card skimmer gets what he bought with my card, and a bit extra. This story starts off with the slightly less humorous fact. A few days ago, I was on the unfortunate end of a credit card fraud. The fraudsters decided to take my credit card info and purchase $1,000 worth of car parts from Philly and have it sent across the border to the city I currently live in, Vancouver, Canada. Normally, this is where the story ends. Sometimes they get away with it, sometimes they don't, but either way, my card is replaced and I continue on living my life. This, however, is where the fun starts happening. I got a call this morning about a DHL shipment entering the country that required customs to be paid. Knowing I haven't shipped anything with DHL in forever, because they are the worst, I quickly come to the realization that it must be the fraudsters shipping their goods here. It can't be, I thought. Who in their right mind would use a stolen credit card to order something to their own house in the city the owner of the card lives? After a brief chat with DHL about the customs fees I will not be paying, I managed to obtain the address the package was being sent to. I hummed and hawed about it, but eventually decided that the best thing to do would be to call the local police department and let them know what was up. I told the officer all about the situation. That unfortunately I did not know what the car parts were for, and that I hope this info helps them somehow in the future. He tells me that the chances are slim, but he will swing by the house. It's literally 15 minutes from my own, just to see if anything weird is going on, and to follow up with me if he needs to. I thank him and go on with my work day. About an hour later, I get a call from the same officer, obviously excited. "Hi OP, it's Officer X. You will never guess what just happened. I was following up on the report and drove by the house. I decided to go knock on the door just to see if anyone was home and ask them a couple of questions. A man opened the door as we were talking. DHL drove up to deliver the package. Yes, that's right, the exact package we had been discussing. The delivery driver walks up to the door and says, "Hi, is OP there?" To which the man replies, "Oh, yeah, he's just downstairs." You can imagine my surprise. That's pretty funny because I just got off the phone with him and I know for a fact he doesn't live here, I said. The guy, no joke, looks me dead in the face and goes, "Oh, whatever, the package is paid for." I chuckled and turned to the DHL driver to tell him he should leave because I need to make an arrest. "I'm calling you while I drive back to the precinct. I thought it might brighten your day." I still cannot believe that they caught the guy, but thought it was a story that was too good not to share. I like how the guy admits to it already have been paid for as well. Like, he could have just said, "Oh no, that's not for me," or whatever, but he's like, yep, that's mine. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.